Hi, welcome to my video on solving an equation which is x plus b equals c. And we're going to use the addition method, the addition property of equality. Notice that this equation has degree 1. It's in terms of x, even though these are a's and b's, these are going to be numbers later. So in terms of that x, this is a 1, but even that's a 1 and that's a 1. So this is a linear equation, but we're talking about in terms of x, a single variable. When solving an equation with a single variable, I normally have the variables on the left side and the numbers on the right. In teaching, make sure I put my variables on the left and my numbers on the right. But you don't have to, but to be consistent for all the ones that I'm going to deal with, I'll put the variables on the left and the numbers on the right I'm going to say every time. Hopefully I'll do it every time. The left side equals the right side is an equation. So that's the left side and that's the right side. Notice the variables, x's are on the left, numbers on the right. Variables on the left, numbers on the right. Variables on the left, numbers on the right. All the time. Even when I'm going to solve all the equations, I'll put the variables on the left and the numbers on the right. Remember, in this unit, we're talking about a single variable, mostly x, on the left, numbers on the right. Solve x plus b equals c, where b and c belong to the integers. Notice b and c belong to the integers. So these are the numbers. We're dealing with integers right now in this particular video, and we'll deal with integers at the beginning of most of this until I come to fractions and decimals later. But integers helps us get a better handle on what's going on. So that's why we'll talk about a and b being integers. So let's solve these for x. So if I have 3x plus 1 equals 3, most people will subtract 1 from each side. Because that's a 1, we want x to be all alone, so we'll subtract 1 from each side. So 1 minus 1 is a 0. And 3 minus 1 is 2. Check back. If you put a 2 right here, 2 plus 1 equals 3, so you know 2 is right. B, we got an equal sign there, didn't mean to have that, so rub that out. And we're subtracting 2, so the opposite of subtracting 2 is to add 2 to both sides. So what we're really doing, let's look up here. If I have A equals B, and I add on C to both sides, that's still true. So we're adding, or if I have A equals B and I subtract C from both sides, that's still true. So adding or subtracting the same number onto both sides keeps the equation true, obeys the equality. So because I got to subtract, I'll add 2 to both sides. So minus 2 plus 2 is 0. And it gives me an 8. Now I can put plus a 0 there, but x plus 0 is still 0. X plus 0 is still x. So I can put a 0 here, but x plus 0 is x. So when I add these and get a 0, I just leave the 0 out. I'm adding 4 to the x, so I want to get rid of it. So the opposite of adding 4 is subtract 4. So plus 4 minus 4 is 0. And that's a negative 2, negative 4 is negative 6. So again, you're adding on the opposite to both sides. Notice we're subtracting 7, so we'll add 7 to both sides. And minus 7 plus 7 is a 0, and negative 10 plus 7 is negative 3. And double negative, we make it a positive before we start. So that means that's an x plus 7 now. So to get rid of that 7, which is on the left side, we subtract 7 on both sides. 7 subtract 7 is 0. 9 subtract 7 is 2. And if you check back, put a 2 back here. 2 plus 7 is 9. So we're correct. So we're adding on the opposite. We're getting rid of the plus 4. We're getting rid of the negative 7 by adding on the opposite. F, x plus 6, and that's A double negative is a positive, and I got a plus 6, so I'll take away 6 from each side. Make that a subtract. So plus 6 minus 6 is 0, and 3 subtract 6 is negative 3. So the double negative becomes a positive, and I subtract 6 from both sides. Just be careful. Again, a reminder, sometimes I make errors, so apologize, but that's just the way it happens. I'm subtracting 6, so I need to add 6 to each side. Done. And negative 6 plus 6 is 0. So we get an x, and 0 plus 6 is 6. And check back. Take a 6 and put it here. 6 minus 6 is 0. Correct. Let's continue. Notice we're adding on the opposite. So if I'm adding, I'll subtract. If I'm subtracting, I'll add. And notice I'm always have the x's on the left, so the number got to go to the right. So we're getting rid of the number. We're trying to isolate the x by itself. We're solving for x. So here we have a practice. Pause your video and work all of these out to see if you're going to get the right answers. Here we go. We're adding 6, so we subtract 6 from each side. And 6 minus 6 is 0. 8 minus 6 is 2. We're subtracting 1, so we'll add 1 to each side. Keeps it balanced. And that's a 0, so that's an x equals 5. And again, check back. Put a 5 back here. What's 5 minus 1? 4. Check here, 2. What's 2 plus 6? 8. And these are very easy, but they're just illustrating an idea or a concept. What number add on to 10 gives you 6? It has to be a negative 4, but that's easy to see because the problem is easy. But we're consistent. We'll subtract 6. We want to get rid of the negative or the plus 10, so we subtract 10. So plus 10 minus 10 is 0. So 6 minus 10 is negative 4. We're subtracting 9, so we'll add 9 to both sides. Done. And again, that gives us 0 there. Negative 12 plus 9 is negative 3. Double negative, we make it a positive. So that's a plus 1, so let's subtract 1 from both sides. And again, that gives us a 0, and x plus 0 is still x. Negative 6, negative 1, negative 7. Double negative, make it a positive. Anytime you see a double negative, make it positive, and it becomes easy. We're adding 2, so we subtract 2 from both sides. That gives us a 0. Again, x plus 0 is still x. 7 minus 2 is 5. Check back. Put a 5 back in here. 5 plus 2 is 7. Right. Double negative, positive. Double negative, positive. So this is a plus 9, so we'll subtract 9 from both sides. And that's a 0, so that's just an x. And 1 subtract 9 is negative 8. Now you can go plus negative, but I'm trying to get away from this plus negative and just, you can go 1 plus negative 9 if you want, and that'll give you negative 8, but that's your choice if you want to change it to plus negative. And we're subtracting 4, so we'll add 4 to both sides. Done. And x equals, that's a 0, they cancel out. Remember, they're all canceling out, huh? Just like that, they're zeros. I can cancel, draw a line to these if I want. So they cancel out if you want, or just, and negative 5 plus 4 is negative 1. And I'm adding 7, so to get rid of the add 7, I subtract 7. And plus 7 minus 7 is 0, so x equals negative 7. And check back, negative 7 here. Negative 7 plus 7 is 0. And you can see that the answer to this is 11, because 11 minus 11 is 0. But just to go through, when you get to know what you're doing, you don't have to do all these steps. And negative 11 plus 11 is 0, so x plus 0 is x. And you get 11. Check back. 11 minus 11 is 0. And that brings us to the end of this video. Again, we're solving linear equations in one variable. and we're doing one step at a time. That's the key, understanding one step at a time. If you like my video, click the like button. If you're not a subscriber, click the subscribe. Getting tongue-tied. Click the subscribe button. Click the notification bell. Write a comment if you wish if you're a subscriber. And visit my math website, mathfullyexplained.com. And you get 3 sections on information on me, has degrees in teaching experience. Section on videos tells you about the teaching strategies I'm using in my videos to help you learn the math. And the content has the topics and the number of videos. The black font is what's online right now on my YouTube channel, and the red font is what will be there in the near future. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.